Salamat siang, welcome in to season number 2 of the FC Bekasi CIty save. In season number 1, we would take over at our new club, FC Bekasi CIty. We would go about improving our playing squad, both by making transfers and also developing from within our own youth system. We'd go on a fantastic run of form that would take us right to the very end, as we would go on and win the playoffs, gaining promotion, winning Liga 2 at the first time of asking. That means that in season number 2, we're going to have a crack at Liga 1. Let's have a look at what happened. To kick the episode off, we're going to go right back to the beginning of season number 2. So it is June 2025. We have not long been promoted and we are now officially a Liga 1 team. Looking at some of the club information, our reputation is a 1-star national team still as we move up into Liga 1 and become more established and certainly play in some of the Asian Champions League football. I do believe that reputation will begin to grow quite quickly. Looking at the finances, it says we are a 3-star finance team. I'm not too sure about that. We will have a look at the finances in a minute. If we had that amount of cash, we certainly would be putting the money into the academy coaching and the youth recruitment, because both of those are poor at the moment. Looking at the key personnel at the club, our club captain at this point is Chihiro Konagaya. Our key player is Mosquito, but spoiler alert, he may not be at the club for too much longer. And our hot prospect is an academy player that we are bringing through into the first team. He is Adi Moat. He has already played his debut and he's already making an impact in the first team. Looking at the squad, we are pretty much going to begin season number 2 with the squad that we ended season 1 with. Now, there are a few gaps that are going to form. We have a few contract issues too, with a couple of players being out of contract already, and there are contracts that we are looking to extend by the end of the season. But in terms of the overall depth of the squad, it is quite good, and hopefully we have a good building block with what we did in season 1 to begin to really push this squad to where we want to go in terms of not only having an impact in Liga 1, but maybe even challenging some of the top teams straight off the bat. To do that, though, we are definitely going to need to improve the squad, and to do that, we need some money. But looking at the finances, that 3-star really is deceptive. We only have £25,000 in the bank. We have a transfer budget of £56,000, which is interesting, and a wage budget of £19,000, but we're only spending £13,000. So with that transfer budget of £56,000, let's see what we can do. The answer, quite honestly, was not a lot. We did go out and buy some players, but we didn't actually spend any cash because of the situation that the club is in financially. I didn't feel it was right to spend £56,000 when we didn't even have that as a club balance. As you can see, we wouldn't actually let go of any players in this transfer window, which means we weren't generating any cash, but we did manage to sign 3 players. The first of which was Huey Ono. He's a striker that we managed to buy from Risho University. He came in on an amateur contract, which means that we didn't have to pay a fee, and I think he could settle in really well. He has good finishing and first touch. His heading is good. He has good technique, good composure, and I think for the standard of football that we play, he could go on to be a bit of a diamond in the rough, and one that we certainly could polish when we are looking to build our team. The next player that we signed was another free transfer, and we went to our favourite country, Brazil. We managed to pick up Ko Maciel. He has potential ability of 5 stars. I know that is against my own team, but it certainly is a big step up and an improvement on the players that we already have in our squad. We got him from America MG. He comes with blistering pace. He has good agility, natural fitness. In terms of his determination being 15, work rate of 12, technique of 13, passing of 12, dribbling, finishing, first touch. He has everything that is needed for a wide player. Fortunately, he can only play in one position, but luckily for us, we play with an attacking midfielder on the right-hand side of the field. So, at the age of just 20 years old, I really think that he's a player that we could hold on to and moving forwards, developing to an absolute star in this league. And the final player, we bought another foreigner, Owen Silva. He's a player that plays on the opposite side to Ko Maciel, and he is a left-sided attacking midfielder who is from America. 18 years old, comes in with a 4.5-star potential ability against my own team. But the good thing here is that we signed from FC Dallas Juniors, which means that he didn't come with a fee attached. But look at some of his attributes. Pace of 12, acceleration of 16, agility of 15. He has good dribbling with 14, passing of 11, technique of 13, good determination, work rate and teamwork. I think he's a player that could go on to be an absolute star. So that means that we have managed to improve the squad a little bit. We rejigged around a few of the things in terms of the players that have run out of contracts. We still have a couple of contract issues, which isn't too bad going into the season. But I do think that we are set and we are ready to go into the brand new season and give it our very best shot in Liga 1. Our first game in the top flight would be an absolutely crazy affair against PSKC. The game would swing back and forth in the early stages until we finally got some control. Goals from Ramadani, Sutopo, Santoso, new boy Maciel, and a hat-trick from our brand new American Owen Silva would secure us a 7-3 victory. Up next, we would have a far calmer game as we faced off against Persic. A 2-0 victory was secured thanks to goals from Maciel and Conor Goya. The third match of the season was a bit of a strange one. We would dominate the game and win by a scoreline of 5-1. 2 goals each from Maciel and Ramadani were accompanied by a goal from Silva. However, we did suffer the sending off of Rinaldi. Our first 3 league games would go like a dream, but the next 12 league games would show that it certainly was no fluke. After we would beat Persebaya 5-1, we would go on to beat PSM, Bayankara, Persis and Persipura. However, we did have a slight blip as a 5-3 defeat against Arima did halt us in our tracks. It was a game that we never truly had control of, and with a bit of sloppy defending and not taking our chances, we would go down 5-3. However, that blip wouldn't last for long because straight after that, we would go and win our next game. We beat Persita 2-0, beat Persija 1-0, we would draw 1-1 with Borneo, beat Persicarbo 4-2, have a 0-0 draw with Derby United, and win the last 2 games before we came back against Persib and PSS. That means that after 15 league games, it was a dream. We are top of the league, and not just top of the league, we are top by 10 points. At this stage, we have played 15, we have won 12, drawn 2, lost just that single game, have a goal difference of 28, and we have 38 points. Looking at some of the stats, you can see Maciel has had an important impact on the team. He has 9 goals. He has the 3rd highest average rating. Owen Silva with 7.58 as an average rating also has come in and been fantastic. He has 9 assists. Everything at this stage is going perfect. Jumping back into the league action, and we are now flying. In match day 16, we would go on to score 7 times in a game for the 2nd time in the season. We absolutely dominated this game. Yui Ono would steal the show as the Japanese striker scored 4 times, with Alfin, Rinaldi and an own goal rounding the scoring out. In the next match, the goals would continue to flow as we put 4 past Burrito Putera to gain another 3 points. The goals in this one would come from Maciel, Silva, Kola and Abbas, who would also go on to get himself sent off. Just as it looked like we would blow everyone away though, we would go and throw in a duff performance, as an organised Pesita would hold us to a 1-1 draw. After we would have a slip up and drop points in that 1-1 draw, our league form actually became quite patchy. In the very next game we would beat Persija 3-2, but then drop points again with a 3-3 draw against Persic. Then would come the Indonesian Cup 2nd round. We would go through over 2 legs, 4-2 on aggregate. But sandwiched in those games was a really disappointing game against PSKC, where we would lose 3-0 and nothing went our way. We couldn't even beat 9 men. After that, back in league form, a 1-1 draw against Derby United and a 1-1 draw against Persib meant even more points dropped. Back into the Indonesian Cup, 3rd round, 1st leg, we would win 4-1. We would draw 2-2 in the 2nd leg at home, meaning we would go through 6-3 on aggregate. But in the very next round against Persipura, we would have a 2-0 advantage from the home leg, lose the away leg 2-0, and end up going out of the competition on penalties. After that, we would actually pick our league form back up. PSS would get a 4-1 beating. Persipura would get a 4-0 beating. But Arima, once again, would cause us problems. We would lose 2-1 at home in a game that we really had no control in. Yui Ono did score the goal for us, but 2 late goals from them would seal 3 points against us. Next up was Persis in a 1-0 victory. And finally, Persebaya would go down 2-1 in Liga 1. That means that after 28 games, we have already secured our playoff spot. We have won 19, drawn 6, lost 3 times now, have a goal difference of 41 and are on 63 points. In terms of the stats for the league, Yui Ono is now our top goal scorer with 18 goals. Owen Silva is still having a high average rating season with 7.56. He has 17 assists. And what a gem of a player Owen Silva is turning into. Even though it looks like he's not developing with us, it seems that he really is coming on leaps and bounds as a footballer and is contributing well in a league where he's probably a bit stronger than it seems. We also have a good defence in terms of clean sheets. We would have 10 of those. So we are putting ourselves in a really good position as we're coming towards the end of the season. What will happen? Can we stay on top of the league? Let's find out. So the run of league games to the end of the season is now complete. And despite the fact that we beat Persebaya 2-1 at the end of the last run of games, we actually were pretty inconsistent all the way to the end of the season. We would end up with 4 draws on the bounce, a 0-0 against Borneo, 2-2 against Persikabo, 1-1 against Bayankara, and a 2-2 draw against PSM. The only silver lining for us was we would win the last 2 games of the league phase with a 5-0 victory against Bali United and a 1-0 victory against Barito Putera. Now, we already knew that we had qualified for the playoffs, but the team that will join us will be Persik, Persib and Dewa United. We would win the league phase by 8 points, winning 21 of 34 games, having a 47 goal difference. If we have a look at the competition in a bit more detail, we can see that we didn't actually have one of the best top goal scorers. 19 was our best with Yui Ono. Owen Silva would go on to do himself brilliantly in the first season with a 7.58 average rating and 18 assists. We'd have Setho getting 13 clean sheets, meaning that our defensive unit was really, really strong. That means that with the league complete, we would now jump into the playoffs. The playoff, as always, would be a 2-legged affair. We would get drawn against Dewa United. The first leg would be played away from home, but goals from Silva, Ono and Etienne would put us in a commanding position as we win the first leg 3-0. In the second leg, it was more of the same, as a dominant performance resulted in a 4-1 home win, as goals from Silva and a hat-trick from Ono powered us into the final. The final of the Liga 1 Championship would be against Persib in a 2-legged affair. We would kick off with a home match where goals from Subtopo, Silva and a brace from Ono would put us in a commanding position after a 4-2 win. In the second leg, away from home, we would play with a lot more caution. Knowing we had one hand on the trophy, we would play out a 1-1 draw. This gave us a 5-3 aggregate win, which would see Bekasi CIty crowned as champions of Indonesia for the very first time. We have conquered Indonesian domestic football in back-to-back seasons. With the league title now wrapped up, the only thing left to do is have a look at the season review and then start planning for season number 3. So let's look at the 25-26 season review. There is our Indonesian league title proudly on display for everybody to see. In terms of the new arrivals, we would only have 3 signings, but what a 3 signings they would be. In this season, we have completely rebuilt our attacking unit. A player for the left, a player for the right, and a player up the middle. Starting off with signing of the season from Dallas Juniors, it's Owen Silva, our 19-year-old American winger. He would play 33 games, 21 goals, 20 assists, a 7.58 average rating. Then we would have Yui Ono, our striker from Risho University. 36 appearances, 28 goals, 6 assists and a 7.26 average rating. And finally, our Brazilian 21-year-old KO Maciel from America MG, 39 appearances, 13 goals, 11 assists and a 7.11 average rating in a fantastic season. So in terms of the season to remember, we already know we won the league phase of the Indonesian League. We then would go into the playoffs where we beat Dewa United in the semi-final and Persib Bandung in the final. The board are absolutely delighted to register our first ever top flight Indonesian League title. In terms of the moments to remember, our biggest win was the 7-2 win against Bali United from early on in the season. Our match to remember was the 7-3 victory against PSKC. And the goal of the season, that would go to Ferroni, provided a perfect finish to an excellent team move by scoring a powerful effort from 22 metres in a 4-0 victory against Persipura. In terms of the finances for this season, so in terms of club reputation, we still haven't grown the reputation as of yet. I'm presuming after one league title, that is to be expected. We certainly now need to make an impact going forwards into continental football by playing well in the Asian Champions League. In terms of our average annual revenue, that has gone up in terms of sponsorship, broadcast revenue, corporate and hospitality, match day, commercial and retail. The only thing that went down was our prize money from competitions. In terms of the merchandise sales, we sold £1,003 worth of merchandise. 52 shirts were sold, and the players that were popular was Ono, Silva, Kola, Setho and Conor Goya. In terms of how our team lined up throughout the season, this is pretty much a fair reflection. We had Setho in goal most of the time, Ramdani, Rinaldi, Sutopo and Abbas. We had Kola, Ferroni, Conor Goya, Silva, Ono and Maciel. We have a few players that are coming through into our first team from the youth teams. We really are looking to build upon that as we go forwards. In terms of the accolades for the season, so I was manager of the month for July, August, October, and also won manager of the year. In terms of the awards for the players, so we know fans player of the season was Owen Silva. He was young player of the season, signing of the season. Goal of the season went to Ferroni. Top goal scorer with 28 would be Yui Ono. Most assists would go to Silva. Most man of the match awards to Silva. Highest average rating to Silva. And Sutopo would have the most passes completed per 90 minutes. In terms of the record breakers, Ono for goals in a season, most league goals in the season, most goals by a player in a match with 4, most goals by a player in a league match, most assists for Owen Silva, Setho, most clean sheets, Silva most man of the match awards. Kola would have the worst discipline with his 1 red card and 9 yellows. Most league appearances by a player is up to 60 for Ferroni, and most league goals by a player is now 26 for Ono. So, we have come to the end of the season review. We know that we won the league. We have our trophy on display. Bekasi CIty came along better than anybody would have expected and carried the mid-season form all the way to the finish line. In terms of our timeline, this is where we are. Ono breaks records, prolific Ono, Liga 1 triumph and the managerial award. Before we wrap this up and start looking at the preparations for season number 3, there are a couple more things that I want to look at. The first of which is the finances. Now you can see that the finances are really difficult. £36,000 in the bank balance, £71,000 available for transfers and £19,000 in the wage budget. Now we're not spending anywhere near the amount of wages that we can, but those two figures in terms of the overall balance and the transfer budget are really not good to look at. Hopefully, now we have won our first Indonesian League title, if we can qualify for the Asian Champions League proper and we can have a good run in that competition, hopefully it opens the door in terms of sponsorship and revenues. We start to get that match day money coming, and maybe we can start to move the club forward in terms of getting off of that bottom line where we are just struggling from month to make ends meet. Maybe, who knows, one of the 3 players that we signed at the top end of the pitch, maybe they will catch the attention of a bigger club who'll come in with a big money offer. And maybe if we move one of them on, it helps us in the long run. Speaking of the squad though, the squad is looking good as we go into season number 3. We have managed to secure most of the contracts that we wanted to secure. There are a few players that will probably be leaving the club at the end of their contracts in a few weeks' time. But if we can go out and get replacements, and certainly going to try and think outside of the box like we did in this season. Maybe if we can go out and buy a player from America again. Maybe if we can go out and buy another player, maybe from Japan. Some of those leagues, or even the Brazilian leagues in terms of Serie C and the reserve teams for some of the bigger teams, you can certainly find diamonds in the rough in those types of teams, and we could polish them and maybe bring them together and help us to go on and certainly defend our title and push in our quest to be the best team in Asia. So heading into season 3, the key personnel at the club, Chihiro Konagaya is still our club captain. Our key player is now Owen Silva. Our hot prospect is Addy Moat. There are a number of players that will be coming through in the academy as well. Haven't yet received our youth intake, but I think we will receive it at the crossover of seasons. So hopefully in season number 3, we can introduce you to some of those players. Right then, for this one, I'm going to wrap it up there. A big thank you for watching season number 2. Again, I really hope that you're enjoying this. Thank you to all of the Indonesian viewers out there. I know you're there because the analytics keep telling me that you're there. And I really do appreciate all the support that you've given me. I know after the E-World Cup that happened, the interest in the game is really, really peaking in Indonesia. So hopefully us as content creators can make something that can capture your enthusiasm, shall we say. Hopefully we can capture that enthusiasm and keep you entertained and give a little bit back from our community to yours and share the love of Football Manager. But for this one anyway, I'm going to wrap it up there. Don't forget to come back and join me in season number 3. I'll see you on the next one very soon.